Conversations will dive into Pastor Rawlings' book, Killing Me Softly, which you can order on Amazon.com today. It's a book birthed from a deep passion for the community, we're going to call them people of color community. And Killing Me Softly, again, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black community, is available on Amazon.com. But good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Coco?
Great. We're going to delve right in.
Okay.
Why continue to talk about racism? We do it over and over and over. I mean, oh my God, we're beating a dead horse.
Well, it's true. And I think that even with this show, we've talked earlier that we want to hit a lot of different topics. And racism is one of them. Racism is such a prevalent conversation right now in our society, and there's such differences in it. We'd have someone like Morgan Freeman, who says, well, racism will end when we stop talking about it. We would have Lil Wayne, a popular rapper, who would say that he has never, ever once experienced racism in his entire life. And even Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson made the comment that if there were riots every time a black person shot a white person, that they would be 24 hours a day, all day long. We have Tim Scott, Larry Elder, a lot of people, Officer Tatum in the black community, that would say that there is not systemic racism and this country is not racist. However, the fact of the matter is there is racism. Now, whether we want to say that it's in every area, education, law enforcement, what have you, that can be debated. But at the same time, as believers, I believe that we need to continue to remember that though we fight this, and as every Christian on the planet should be involved in the discussion and trying to see what we can do with racism, simply because Jesus said that the second greatest commandment is to love our neighbors as ourselves. And so because of that, anytime that anyone is oppressed in any way, we as Christians need to talk about that and need to have discussions. But we also need to be careful that we understand as Christians that the dividing line is not black and white or Asian and black or Asian and white. That's not our dividing line. Our dividing line is believers and non-believers. The Bible says in Christ there is no Jew or Greek, male or female, because when the Lord looks down upon our earth, he sees two groups of people. People that are Christians, that follow him, and people that are not. And so, though we certainly will continue to talk about racism, and of course invite you to pick up the book, Killing Me Softly, on Amazon.com, we do need to remember as Christians that Satan, little g, is the god of this world. And the Bible says he's the god of this world. Jesus said that he comes to steal and kill and destroy. And the Lord also said there is no truth in him. So as we go about our lives, though we will tackle things like racism, and we will certainly fight for the poor and what have you amongst us, we need to constantly realize that the group that we are in is Christian, or the other group is non-Christians. And we will always be aware, but we also understand that as the God of this world, who can do nothing but lie, he cannot tell the truth, and that he continuously works through people to tell his lies. He consistently works through people to steal and to kill and to destroy. And Paul even said that at times that people that are not believers will masquerade as an angel of light. So I believe that one of the things he does is that he takes people in society and he lies through them. And we need to understand that many of our politicians, many of the news media are lying. And they're lying over and over and over because the God of this world has blinded their minds. So we need to talk openly about how he is using racism But we need to also step back and ask ourselves as Christians, not as what the color of our skin is, or even if we're conservative or liberal, we need to step back and talk about what is the enemy's goal for our country, our society right now. And we need to be able to recognize that there's people that may look like us, may even come from the same background, but Satan through them continues to lie. And I will say over and over again, we need to fight racism and prejudice and anything along those lines. But we also need to stand as Christians, and we need to, the people that we watch, we see that we are learning from, we need to take a look at them and say, wait a minute, is what you're saying, is it a lie or is it the truth? And that's just so vital in this day and age, because there's primaries coming up. We're going to go out and vote. People all over the country will come out and vote. Do you vote because someone has your background? They grew up in your city, you went to high school with them, they have the same skin color that you have? Or do you step back and say, you know what, I want leaders that follow godly principles. I want people that each day wake up, go to the Lord and say, today your will be done. And unfortunately, some of the lies that are told just causes division amongst us. It's horrible division. Charles Barkley, a former NBA player, just a couple of weeks said, we all, black and white, have to understand that there are people, and it benefits them. It benefits their career, their status, for us to hate each other. And he said they will continue to throw fuel on that fire so that we hate the other person, or we're bitter, or we're consistently angry. And he said they do that. It is their benefit, and that's what they are doing every day, and we need to understand and recognize that. So, I know that's a long intro, Coco, but I would just like to talk a little bit today about where we are in times. Where does racism fit into that? And if we could, and I invite you all to call in with examples, if we could even spend some time exposing the lies of the enemy and standing back, locking arms as Christians and say, we want to support people with godly beliefs. I'm so sorry to take so long, Coco, but thank you.
Do not apologize. Oh, that was great. I mean, this gives an insight as to who you are. And again, if you've just joined us, this is Cordial Conversations with Todd Rawlings. He's written a new book called Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. And yes, the phone lines are open, 757-454-1650, 454-1650. I do remember the caller from last Thursday. She was in her 70s, and she definitely said that the laws, need to be changed. So if you have any solutions, cordially, we are not debating, we're not getting into any arguments, we're not disrespecting anyone, but we do want to hear solutions, because the time for talking is over. It's time for action. So what do we do? And one thing that came to mind, again, the number to call, 454-1650, if you'd like to call in, give us some solutions, or give us some stories about your dealings with racism. We'd be happy to hear them, 454-1650. But one thing that comes to mind is I was in the military. We're coming up on Memorial Day weekend, and I want everyone to just stay safe out there this weekend. But we're coming up on a holiday that keeps military men and women in memory. And what amazes me is that we can come together, no matter what color, gender, no matter what, and fight for a country that doesn't seem to have our back after we've served in the military.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, for us, we need to look at justice from a Christian standpoint. And it is unfortunate that all through history, in every country, the young men and women have given their lives to fight for they don't know what. Now, it's one thing to say, I'm going to fight and defend my family. I'm going to fight and defend my country. But so many times they end up in a foreign land, killing others and being shot at and losing their limbs. And they don't even quite understand why? And I say that not to say they're ignorant, because I don't always understand why. And so often we are used by powerful people to be able to meet their goals and not. And I believe there's a time for war and a time for peace. But, at the same time, I think you're absolutely right as we remember this weekend. We have had all types of Americans, white and black. The black community has been instrumental in defending this country in amazing ways. And so, again, we step back as Christians and we say, what is my response? Not as a white person, not as a black person, but what is my response? And I think our hearts need to go out to those people and, yes, find someone this weekend to do something nice for them, to say hello to them, whatever it may mean, and whatever it may be, and realize that we still have people in this country that fought in the Vietnam War. We still have people that were in Korea, and those people went through things that we may never ever completely realize what they did. And again, we're talking about racial issues, but it is horrible that black people have given arms and legs and lives, fathers and sons. In Vietnam, the average age of a soldier was 19 years old. Can you imagine you're sitting in a classroom waiting for the state basketball tournament? 4 months later, you're in Vietnam getting shot at. And it affected them emotionally. So I agree, Coco. So tremendous weekend that we need to uplift our soldiers.
Well, I really brought it up because, like I said, I was in the military, and and I did encounter some racism in the military.
Mm-hmm.
People from Boston.
Really?
I've never been around people of color.
Wow.
Yeah, that tripped me out. Like the only time they saw someone of color was on TV or in a movie.
Really?
They had never been around a person of color. I experienced that in the military, and I'll never forget that. And it just brought back memories of the fact that, but yet, we can come together to fight someone else's agenda.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That amazes me.
But I'm taken back a little bit, because you can't be any more than 24 years old. So where in the world were you in the military? But that must have been a horrible experience. Again, you're fighting for your country. You're signed up to fight for your country, and then someone in that country belittles you. I can hardly think of a more horrible thing.
It wakes you up to the fact that people all over the world are just. Here's the thing: we are all alike, but we don't celebrate each other's differences. Now, I remember being in Europe. They celebrate our differences more than we do over here in this country, which is supposed to be dubbed the melting pot. But we don't celebrate each other's differences like they do in Europe.
How do they do that?
They are curious about why you dress how you dress, why you worship, why do you do your hair like that? They're not disrespectful. They're not looking down on you or putting down or calling you names, degrading you in any way. They're curious about who you are, to the point that they really make you feel like they love you because you're different.
That's interesting.
In Germany specifically.
Wow. When you were in the military, did you find people of other races that were open and cared for you and didn't?
Yes,
Good.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. There was a Greek young man. We could not even communicate because we didn't speak the same language. But we had such a good time. I mean, that is a great time that I'll never forget. Partying with him, in a club, and going and meeting him at an ice cream store at that time when they had ice cream. They don't even. Well, yeah, they do. I don't see many ice cream stores the way they used to. But in Germany, they had ice cream parlors everywhere, and we couldn't communicate, but we communicated.
Yeah.
But that was over there. I can't even see that happening in this country unless you go to California somewhere. But over here, no.
Well, and again, just the idea that this show is Cordial Conversations, that we need to be able to talk about things with people, not getting angry, not threatening each other. I mentioned one of my great educations was playing basketball in college and being a minority. But these people were brothers. I mean, we played together, fought together, bled together. If there, to be quite honest, there was a fight in the court, it doesn't matter who was wrong, you're with your guys.
Right.
At the same time, we grew tight in that we made be going across country in a van, and I may say, come on, we got to put on some different kind of music. I just cannot stand this any longer. And it wasn't offensive.
Right.
And they would laugh and say, okay, well, let's put it to a vote.
Yeah.
Sorry, you lose.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah.
Celebrate our differences and to be able to say, as opposed to an ugly statement that people had made about others' music or whatever. But when you said in the military with that, we need to get back to that. And again, that is Christian ways to go. And the others is not Christian. The Bible has 21 verses that are one another verses and talks about Christians. And even if we could look at each other as far as our race goes, and we could stick with those 21, serve one another, show hospitality to one another, honor one another, be kind to one another, over and over again. And I would just submit that you cannot be committed to that group and then practice racism. I just don't see how that would be possible. We need to bind together.
Well, 4 or 5 in the end, we do have a phone call, Pastor. You ready to take it?
Sure. Let's see how it goes. Yeah?
Here we go. Thank you so much for calling Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rawlings. You're live on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon. I have a question. I'd just like to get Pastor Todd and your insight on it. Obviously, the movie industry and the movie owners have had a lot of history with racism. But I've currently noticed, watching different movies, that I see a lot of, I would count them as maybe pro-black movies or movies with some historical precedents about maybe the plight of the African Americans. But I wonder, are those movies really set to inflame or incite or empower?
That is an awesome question. That's an awesome question. I've often wanted to ask that question. Pastor Rawlings?
Wow, that is a great question. And I believe that it goes both ways. And even as we talked earlier about our standard is that of Christianity and what Christ asked us. So I think you'll see movies that will do both. I mean, there have been a lot of things in our country that have celebrated the black community. When I was a teenager in the 70s, my bedroom wall was covered with posters of Dr. J. And so, he was the guy to watch and what have you to do. But what happens is this, and this is where we need to be so careful, and as I've just said, what is the agenda? When we watch this movie, we need to ask ourselves questions. What are they trying to tell me? What are they saying? Is what they're saying backed with truth? Or is it just meant to incite people and to cause anger and violence? And here's a difficult thing. There are people that we may watch in movies, on the media, even politicians, and we may adore them, and we may do whatever they say. But we need to shine the light of the gospel in what they say, because some of those people, not all, some of those people have been put there by powerful people to be able to get us, the white community and the black community, to think a certain way. And they put this in our heads, and it's not backed by any type of facts. And they are there to divide us. And so I think, there can be a really good movie, and there are lots of them that celebrate racial divisions. But we also need to see what is it that they are communicating. And I see this all the time on TV shows and movies. What lie are you telling? It doesn't have to be just black and white. There was I forget the exact number, but a very popular show, Seinfeld. And I like Seinfeld. But after it was over, someone gave a statistic, and I'm guessing here, so whatever, that the main female character throughout that show had casual intercourse with 22 different men. And so we watch those things, and it puts in our mind, this is reality. This is how things go. And no one ever questions her. No one ever says anything. And again, it's lies from the enemy, and they are meant to somehow change our thoughts and to divide us. So watch these shows and say, is there something about this that is causing me to be divided from someone else, and especially from a Christian brother or sister.
So I would like to ask the listener, what's your name if you'd like to give it to us?
My name is Bernard.
Bernard, what do you think? Do you think Hollywood is trying to mastermind or program our minds with some of the movies that they make?
Well, yeah, and I do think that because I think they give us false identities, false premises.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that a younger mind may think, I didn't know, particularly as you mentioned earlier about certain whites in communities having never seen a black person or interacted with a black person other than what they see on TV, and they think that's a true perception.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, as you know, I hate to tell my age, but as I have looked at movies from way back in the day, and there was always a negative imagery or connotation about a black person.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, there were black characters in lead positions.
Yes.
But as time has developed, those images and messages have kind of changed, but then in some ways stayed the same. People tend to, you know, with the social media age and, you know, and be alerted at certain things. But again, I've talked with people that may have watched the recent black movies or black stories being told, and even some black people say, well, I didn't know that about, say, a character or a history. I always thought he was enraged, and you know, black women were more. So the characters that they played were more not like the black women that you see in real life. Either they were feisty or they were mad, you know, and things like that. And so I wonder, as these new programming options come on, and there are so many now, do they get the historical part correct? Do they have a message?
Right.
You know, are they out there just to compete in the marketplace and make a dollar?
Well, and
as African Americans, are we in the right position to be? Are we in the middle of that message in a positive position, or ideology, or you know, if they had a movie on Martin Luther King or Thurgood Marshall or any of the other people that have been recreated in the movies, you know, are the stories being told truthfully, and are the images being received truthfully?
yes.
So that's kind of my approach to it, or opinion.
Yeah, well, you often see writers put in a section where this person gives a speech, and they obviously are leaning one way or another within this speech, and it's meant to change people's minds, and sometimes it's just complete and total lies. And that's where, as Christians, we need to be able to stop and go, wait a minute, is what they said was true? Now, you may find this silly. I am a big superhero fan. And there was recently a show out of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Falcon was a black man, and on the last show, he gave some speeches talking to a senator. And they were just very well done. I mean, very balanced and very intelligent. And I thought, that's tremendous that, you know, that they were able to say that and not put someone else down and not just spread a lying agenda. So it was very good. So there you go, superhero movies. Yeah.
So, Bernard, real quick, I'm going to let you go. What would your solution be to this issue?
Well, you know, I think as believers, we need to control our narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, regardless of our color of our skin, you know, any of the labels that people put on us. You know, and I'm just blessed to be around a lot of people of different colors. I spent a time in Europe, so I understand through the military, so I understand what you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's not a really good, simple solution, I feel, because we're still in the age of trying to develop these relationships, trying to, as believers, be in the marketplace, and we kind of got away from the theologies of some Christian religions that don't coincide with others, even though we all believe in the Lord. And the true thing is, about if I'm a Catholic or if I'm a Protestant or Southern Baptist or Baptist or Kojic or there's so many more others. But again,
And Bernard, can I add to that real quick? It's so funny that the separation of races and the separation of religion. And let me tell you what's amazing. In every religion, the devil is still the same. But, every religion has different gods. But the devil is still the same. What is that about,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a theologist or I don't have a lot of studies in the Bible, but from my just common knowledge and my experiences, I find that so true. And from my conversations with, people in the community.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Also, and I don't mean to get way off topic here, but when you bring up television shows and movies, sometimes it's just very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would step back and say, well, I Love Lucy was just a pure, morally upright show. Well, no, it was about a woman who continuously manipulated and lied to her husband
It was a Cuban.
on a regular basis. Who was a Cuban. And so you also have, the Superman movies. One of the things you be careful when you watch shows is you get, in the original Superman movie, Superman then sleeps with Lois Lane. Superman gets drunk. Superman, has these things. And what it does is it confuses the lines of good and bad. So that means that bad people under the authority of Satan they're still good and they do good things. And then good people will still do horrible things. And it is tough because a lot of shows, you'll have a pastor and I'll go, oh no, here we go. And they will just paint that pastor as just this horrible person. So sometimes it's very subtle, but it is real.
And also, Bernard, real quick, these are creators. The people who are creating these movies and these images, they're creators. What are we, the people, creating? Except for just talking.
Absolutely, there's the answer. We as Christians, we need to jump in.
Right, create.
We need to jump in and create.
Yeah.
We need to do it ourselves.
If we're children of the Creator, shouldn't we be creating?
Absolutely.
And that's why I say we need to control our narrative.
Right.
So no one can speak for us.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
We really have enjoyed this cordial conversation with you. Please keep in touch and call us next week if you can, all right?
All right.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Inside Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rawlings. That was an excellent observation about how Hollywood may be controlling the narrative of racism as well. But I always go back to the 60s. When I was a baby, I've aged myself. I don't care. I just had a birthday, so what?
Right.
But Star Trek not only had all the different races. I mean, you had Suhu, who was Asian. You had Uhura, who was a black woman, and you could I think the doctor was French. Somebody was French. And then you even had a different species who was Spock, who was a Vulcan from another planet. So if Hollywood can create things like that of us coming together, why is it so difficult? Oh, well, because there's another narrative on the small screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Pastor Todd Rawlings is here discussing his book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. I just want to touch on the 4th chapter, War on Black Families. You have to get the book. It's on Amazon.com, and you can also email him at Rawlings, Rawlings, capital MT, Rawlings MT at Verizon.net, or order it on Amazon. But the 4th chapter got me trying to get to the part where it says, well, Bob says we can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heal. Now, when I first read that part, and you have to get the book to understand where I'm going with this or what I'm saying in the 4th chapter. Number one, this language. The English language is really, sorry, it's messed up. Because you've got too many antonyms, synonyms, homonyms, all these nyms. When I first read it, without even looking at the spelling, it says you have to first bring them to heal. I first read it as healing, H-E-L, because they were sick or because they had, they needed healing. But the word is spelled H-E-E-L, like a dog. You must first bring them to heal. And, I went into this, and then you went also into how President Clinton had the 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, and you broke it down, and I'm like, oh, wow. You all have got to get this book. It's very insightful, it's historical, it's imaginative, and I don't mean to be saying that to gas his head up, but it makes you think, oh, wow. Because it's almost like you're living in a bubble. You don't know what's going around. You don't know what's going on around you except for what people are showing you. But when you take a back seat and you look at it from another perspective, you see the whole thing. It's like an eagle on top of a mountain. They can see around the mountain, whereas a chicken who's down at the bottom of the mountain, they can't see what's coming to them at the bottom from around the mountain. So you take a huge perspective, a huge look at where other people are coming from. So chapter 4, and the book is very easy to read. It's what? Let me count these pages here. It's no more than 135 pages, and it's very small. So those of you who are like me, who really don't like to read except for comic books, this book is a great book to have. So you must order it on Amazon.com. Pastor Rawlings.
Well, yes. My hope is that at some point the book is even used in classrooms, because what it does is it exposes decisions our government has made that have literally butchered the black community. And it's happened. But at the same time, doing that while we have the narrative diverted, and so no one even talks about it or thinks about it. I'll get back to that statement in a second. But I think that one of the things that is so important in coming together is that there needs to be unity in the body of Christ. Jesus in John 17, the prayer he prayed before the garden, he got away, and here's my final prayer. Here's what I'm going to pray. And he prayed that we could be as one, or that they could be as one, that Christians could be as one. He didn't pray that we would always be healthy. He didn't pray we would always be wealthy. He prayed for unity because he knew they're going to have a hard time getting along. And so for us, whether it's racism or something else, we need to step back and go, wait a minute. One of the devices of the enemy is to divide us and cause us to dislike each other. And that is when then the agenda of our Lord is set aside. So it's so important that we are able to have unity. And it's important as Christians with elections coming up and what have you, to look at these individuals and watch what they do. And so often we have individuals that there are things they do that you could never do in a high school class without getting kicked out of it. And yet they do it. And then what do? We vote for them and put them in office. And so we forget our Christian heritage and who we are, and we go after something like this because of the color of our skin. Now, maybe this will shock the world. I don't know. But that statement actually is a quote. I put it in as two people having a conversation. That statement was made. And it was made, we must bring them to heel. And that idea of heel, again, is a term you'd use mostly for a dog. When they're barking loud, they're acting up, you need to be able to say heel. And they will sit down, and then they will do whatever you want them to. That's where the phrase comes from. We must bring them to heel. That was a direct quote from Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, during the Biden crime bill, when they're debating whatever, he talked about this group of people and how they have no morals and they have no whatever, and we had to be tougher on crime and more policemen and more things like that. But he, in reference to the black community predominantly, she said, we've got to bring them to heel. And I almost put on the cover of the book how our government brought the black community to heel. Because what happens is, she said that, they passed the crime bill, which we will get into later. And what did we do to react to her saying that about the black community? We voted for her.
Well.
We voted for her. And I will say this, I will not mock or put down any leader, but we do need to expose the truth. We will get this later, but in the midst of that, I would say you would be hard pressed to find any individual in the history of our country that has done more harm to the black community than our current president. And there are thousands and thousands of young black men and women in prison right now that did not even commit a violent crime. And they're in prison for life.
That's in your chapter 2.
It is. And then you have even the crimes that you can be killed for, executed for. They put 60 new crimes in there. And 75% of the people on death row are young black men. Who did that? Predominantly with the Biden crime bill. And so, we have to step back and go, how does this affect the black community? And we can't just listen to the rhetoric. We have to look and see what's going on. And then we have to take the Christian stand. And it's difficult for me to even write that statement. We must bring them to heel. But it was said, and it was celebrated, and we voted for it.
Well, I have to bring this segment to an end, but we will come right back. But we promised that coming out of the last stop set, we would ask you what your agenda is for this book. What is your goal? What is your plan for writing this book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community?
Thank you.
Pastor Todd Rawlings, what's your agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were taking a break.
I do have to take a break, but as
okay.
we go to break, let us know what your agenda is.
Well, my agenda would be this. The two commandments that we need to make sure that we are obeying is you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and you must love your neighbor as yourself. I think any division amongst us is things that we need to take on that battle. And it is a battle. And we as Christians need to understand this isn't just a bunch of words. This isn't just a couple little things we do. This needs to be a lifestyle, and we as Christians come together. The bottom line is, Coco, you and I are brothers and sisters. And it doesn't matter the color of our skins or anything else. We are family as Christians. We are brothers and sisters, and we need to treat each other in that way. For our church, which is New Life Community Church on 129 North Witch Duck Road, we invite you at 10:30 Sunday mornings. We actually share our building with 3 other churches. And
I want you to save that because we are going to take this quick break, and I want you to say that, okay?
Okay. Good.
You're inside Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rawlings, and we have been discussing his book that is on Amazon.com, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. And Pastor Rawlings, you are looking for support as far as maybe churches could come together and support an effort for us to come together as a church on almost every corner of the country, and we seem to be divided. So if the church led the way, maybe we could come together. So tell people how they can support you.
Sure. Well, we, again, a New Life Community Church on 129 North Witch Duck Road, and I would just challenge people out there that want to be involved in ministry through this virus. We have really been left limping a little bit. And if you would like to lead worship or teach a class or watch over children or, potentially even speak and what have you, we need some laborers. So we're praying for laborers to come out in the community. But some of the things that we've done as a church, and I think it hurts us, unfortunately, but we want to be the church. We have 3 other churches that meet in our building that we have brought them in and only take what it costs to cover expenses. But these are 3 predominantly black churches. And then with us, and we're probably about 40% black, we live together and share together and work together. And the pastors are the most wonderful, wonderful men and women you would ever want to meet. So that's one of the things we do. We also have a ministry to low income through Ronald Atkinson. And please, if you'd like to give to that type of ministry, it's Yes USA Transformational. And you can look them up on the internet and give to that. We have a website, Cordial Conversations. Please, there's a button there that you can give. But also, again, I'm really looking for some sponsors to help this show continue. So if you're a business out there and you would like to be part of what we're doing, please do that.
Yes, that means your business will be heard about on this show in this segment. So please give Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rawlings a look at. and lead the way for our grandchildren's sake. It's time to come together. I mean, and the church is the best place to start and to lead the way.
Yeah, if we're not doing it, we have nothing else to say. And we need to be that example. And then back from originally, you know, what I am, what my mission is or whatever, I think, I've said before, I have a long history in the black community. But more than that, as I said, Jesus prayed for unity. And as long as we're divided, and as long as the God of this world can use media and movies and politicians to keep us divided, we forget what the true battle is in our country. And so we need to come together in that way, in unity. And so I believe that our country right now, we can talk about this on another show. People constantly ask, how long will God hold back judgment? I think he's already unleashed it. And I think that our country is currently under judgment. And we need to be able to see that. You know, Jesus scolded the people for, you can't understand the signs of the time. We need to be able to look up and go, no, you know what's happening? That is the judgment of God. And so hopefully call in and get some of your opinions, but in the near future, we will discuss that and what that looks like.
Amen. Yes. So this has been Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rawlings. He will be back next Thursday from 2 to 3